So he graduated from Jabalpur Engineering College in 2017, and then he went on to work for IBM for 3 years. And now he's currently a senior consultant at Mercedes Benz. And besides that, he's a very funny comedian and a great public speaker. I guess someone. Uh, guys, I hope everyone please enjoy this session and find this session helpful. And it's a Q&A session as well. So I encourage you to all ask every doubt and every query. So we are honored to have you, Yash, here. Please, guys, welcome Yash. Over to you, Yash.
Yeah, thank you, Muskan. Thank you everyone for having me. I'm also uh, pretty humbled and grateful to have you guys and just share my experience and whatever knowledge I have. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can
You
hear
go
you.
ahead, please.
Okay. So yeah, I think your placement seasons might be going on right now, right? Or is it upcoming, or when are those?
So yes, we are mostly first year students only, and we will have our placements next year. So we are looking forward to maybe like resume building and career development and like confidence building basically.
Okay. Yeah. So I think to start our session, firstly, I think I would like to just you know keep the focus of all you guys on your profile building. So the first step which you guys will be has to be just step out is just build a strong profile. It could be on your Naukri, it could be on LinkedIn, it could be on any of the job portal. Because nowadays, if you guys are in a good college, then it would be good. But if you are in a tier three college like I was, so at that time the placement weren't that good, right? So I had to go externally and I have to look for placement for myself. I didn't had that opportunity. So through that, I got the placement in IBM, and there I worked for 3 years. But if you have that personal profile already in place right now, so you might face less issues or less challenges while grabbing a first opportunity or first corporate job. So firstly, I think you guys can just focus on your LinkedIn or any of the job portal that there are in the market, and just build a profile, whatever skill set you have. So that should be a first step. Apart from that, I think your focus has to be your overall development, right? Because if you just focus on one skill set right at the moment, it won't last, because the technology and the IT world which we are in right now is changing very rapidly. You have to be in constant change. There are everyday new technologies, so you have to be keep changing and keep adapting to those, right? So make yourself in such a way, or groom yourself in such a way that you should be adaptable to different skill set, right? That is the demand in the market right now. And what else? And yeah, always take some time for your hobbies, right? So your hobbies has to be keep in mind, because it keeps you sane. If you walk into the corporate world right now, it's very hectic, it's very competitive, and you always have to keep some sanity in your mind, right? So always put some time out for your hobbies, maybe during the weekends or maybe during the night time, so that will also keep your mental peace. Yeah, that's it. I don't have. I think if you guys have anything, I can answer.
So guys, this is a Q&A session basically. So please go ahead and ask your queries one by one. Just raise your hand and we'll call out your names for any query, and then Yash can answer.
Yeah, Vaishali, you can go ahead.
Hi, Yash.
Hi, Vishali.
Hi. So you were saying we have to build our profile on LinkedIn. So how do we exactly do that so that we stand out on LinkedIn?
Correct. Yeah. So I think for your national identity, you have your Aadhaar card, right? So your Aadhaar card tells you what nationality you have and what are the details you have. In the same thing, I think LinkedIn has become your professional identity. So your LinkedIn will actually tell the recruiters or the HRs or any of the corporate guys to know about you, to what are the skills you're holding, how much experience you have, what are the things you're building. So that's the that's the primary thing that you have to do. And to answer your question is there are many sample templates which are there in the online world that you can maybe replicate. Or for example, you can go through my profile wherein I have kept it very simple and very precise, and my profile just highlight what are the things I'm doing, where I am right now, and what are my future goals, and what experience and skill set I'm holding. So just to showcase those skills, you can just put it out on LinkedIn. And once you start posting and reaching out for maybe jobs or maybe any of the collaboration, any of the content creation, then your profile will be highlighted on top, right? So that's how I grew, and I think you can also follow the same path. Just put it out, the content that you have right now, and what you are building, what you are having, and what you have in mind for future, and just put it out. I think that will also help to stand out your profile in the content section. So yeah, just go through the top profile that you have on LinkedIn. You can take example of mine, and you can just try to understand how we create our profile just to stand out among the other competitors.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So Yash, like I have one question. As like you said, you are from not like top tier college, and it was really difficult for. So even I in the graduation, I am not from that top tier college, and like so I haven't done that much internships and all. So will it if well, how to build my resume if I haven't done that much, and so my profile can stand out? Like, how can I shape my resume basically?
Yeah, so I think that's the very key question which many people ask me, because they might have not done certification, they might have not done any internship, or they might have not any prior experience. But I think whatever you might be building a project, or you might be building or doing something in the site, right? There has to be something that you might be doing on the site along with your studies. So you can always highlight those skill set or those particular domain which you're working. So that will also help for your profile to stand out. There's no necessity that you always have to go for certification, or you have to always have your internship in place. If you have any things which are building on the side, that can also help your resume to stand out. Because I'll give my example, I haven't also done any internship, I haven't also done any certification, but there were some things which I was building. I was building an online application for listening the music, and that application will actually filter out the music along with your choices. So I think my favorite singer is, suppose, Drake, right? So I'll be searching about Drake songs, and that application will take that data, like this guy likes Drake song, and then all those suggestions will be based on the Drake song. So that was the application which I was building, and I highlighted that application in such a way, like the concentration of the HR will be always going to that particular the project which I was building. So that's how you can highlight your side hustle or side thing which you're doing, and then you can just crack your maybe interview or whatever the position you're looking for based on that particular experience or based on that particular project. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you so much, Yash.
Thank you.
So, like, we would like to know your journey, ki how, like, from IBM, and how did you get this job as senior consultant in Mercedes? Like, what struggles did you face, and we can learn from that only.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned, I passed out from a tier 3 college. Then I worked on myself. I, build a strong profile on LinkedIn, and all the opportunities I have or I am receiving currently also are based on LinkedIn. Because, if your LinkedIn profile is built in such a way that, it highlight your personality, it highlight your experience, it highlight your skill set, then you don't have to actually go out and apply to different organization. The HR will directly contact you. Because if I give my example, I wasn't applying anywhere. I had built my profile, I was just looking casually. I was also having offers from Infosys, I was also having offers from various organization, but I was looking for a product based company and a good company like Mercedes. So I haven't applied there particularly. Those guys called me based on my profile. I didn't had given the initial round, the screening round. I was directly called for HR round, and then I've given my technical rounds based on that. So that was the journey. And apart from that, the way I build myself is I was also keep doing on the side, because I was having my 3-year job with IBM. I was doing 9 to 5 job with IBM, but on the side I was also doing content creation. I was also building side project which was totally accompanying or complementing my profile, because technically I'm technically sound guy. I might be consultant right now, but from my background which I was working with IBM, I was working on a iOS web developer. So I was basically a web developer, and there I was building some projects on the side also, right? So I was also doing the work for company, I was also doing the work for myself, and that's how I created this whole skill set and WorkX for mine. And when I put those WorkX and those skill set on the LinkedIn or any job portal, then the HR will definitely want to hire a guy, right? They want the guy to be to be working with a good company, and they also want a guy who has various skill set, technically sound guy. So that's how I created my job. And so I think those guys called me, and I think I have like 6 to 7 rounds with Mercedes. It was hectic. It went for around 2 weeks, but yeah, finally I was able to convert it.
Thank you so much, Yash. And so Shovan, you asked if I'm pronouncing your name correct. You raised your hand. You can go ahead and ask the question.
Oh yes, yeah, you pronounce it correctly. So my question is that how to actually search off-campus placements, because I see a trend that some page in LinkedIn posts a vacancy like in image format, and people just like go in the comments and type interested. So I just wonder that whether those things work or not. Like no official link to apply is there.
Correct. Yeah. So I think correct. You are absolutely correct. There is no point of just typing interested in the comments. No HR will actually go through the whole comment section and just go through the individual profile and then call you or contact you. It won't work that way. So if you are applying, I will also tell upon my experience, because I have also received many calls and many interview calls through Naukri. So if I tell you one job portal that you can build upon is Naukri also, because in Naukri you not only get the calls from the MNC, you will also get the calls from startups, right? And in the current generation of our India, the startups are on boom, right? Every day you'll be having like 4 to 5 calls from startup. It will not only help you to go through the interview and have that interview experience, and then you can able to will be convert in future those startup call into MNC call, and then those MNC call into product based call, right? So Naukri could be a very viable solution, because there is no there's no discrepancy of the communication, because if the HR will like your data, HR is interested in a profile, they will directly message you or contact you, and from there you will have your call setups one by one. Because when I also initiated, if I tell you about my experience, I also received so many calls, like on a daily basis I received 10 to 20 calls from Naukri itself. There were from startups and small scale companies, but those interview which I gave on those company helped me, right? Because if in the one shot I will go for Mercedes, I won't be able to crack it, because I don't know how the question will be formed, what they're looking for, and how will I be answer them. So you have to have some prior experience and prior knowledge for the interview preparation. And once you're comfortable with those Naukri portals, then you can jump your whole profile from Naukri to LinkedIn, because the MNC and the top tier company will always look for LinkedIn, and they will hire directly from LinkedIn. So for the interview preparation and to have your background preparation in place, you can always go for portal like Naukri. I will definitely recommend you that. So once you are comfortable in that, then you can maybe go to the LinkedIn, and there you can go for the top tier companies.
Okay, thank you so much. So can I ask one more question, if it's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was asking that some people like who do not get on-campus placements, they go to Bangalore and do some courses. It's like very common in BTech guys, but we also belong to the data science background. So some people go to Bangalore to do courses. So like, is it a good option, or like actually we don't know whether everyone get placed from there or not?
Correct. Yeah. So Bangalore is a factor, because Bangalore is our IT city, you can say so. And Bangalore is such a funny city. If there are 10 companies, and if you apply to all the 10 companies, you will get at least a call from 8 companies, right? That's the high demand in Bangalore. So if you go to Bangalore, there is definitely advantage because the recruitment and the hiring is on another level in Bangalore. I was in Bangalore for around 3 to 4 months when I did my training for IBM. So there, I was having calls from different organizations, even though I haven't applied to them, but just based on the city of Bangalore, they were, recruiting guys all alone, and they were also offering a good package. So yeah, I think you can consider going to Bangalore. The city is standalone with the recruiting, and you will always have a good opportunity. But there is no stringent rule that you always have to go Bangalore. If you are comfortable with your skill set, and if you are sitting comfortably in your hometown, and if you're comfortable with whatever skill set and experience you have, then you don't have to go to Bangalore actually to go and sit in their campus placement. You can always work from your home or work from any different city. But yeah, Bangalore has a certain advantage when it comes to recruiting, because the startup hub is there in Bangalore, right? So every day they are starting one company, and they are hiring in masses. So there will be a very high probability of you to get placed in Bangalore within 1 week, I will say. So consider it. Just have a fair knowledge about that city. Have a fair knowledge about the companies which are there in Bangalore. Then you can go for it. So yeah, there's no harm in going to Bangalore and have your campus placement there.
Pratishuti, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Yash.
Hi.
Yeah. So, I have a small question. Like you said earlier that we need to go for the projects, So, can you just please elaborate, how do we sort, from these many projects that we see in LinkedIn every other day? How do we sort the projects out? How do we see, filter it, which will help us and which will not, which are very useful, which are not, Can you just tell about it?
Correct. Yeah. So that totally depends on individual level, because I was a technically sound guy when I was doing my engineering. So I was doing the web development from class 10th, I guess, and I was doing those constant projects on the side. It was my hobby. Like I was very interested with the programming, and I was always doing some other project. Even I didn't did any major project in my college, but on the side I was always doing something or the other thing, right? So totally based on the individual. I was technically sound guy, so I was keep on improving on my technical skills, but it totally depends on the individual level. If you don't have that technical set of programming, you can always go for other medium, like there are certain what should I say, curriculum right now in this world, wherein you don't have to do actual programming. You can go for maybe the BA roles, which is based on the requirement gathering. You can go for some roles which is there for support or testing, or the backend database guys. So that totally depends on the individual level, right? Whatever the things you're interested in, and then based on that project, you can filter out whatever the project you want to build, right? You don't have to copy the guys who are there on LinkedIn, because most of the things which you see on LinkedIn are not accurate. They just build a very smart portion of a project, and then they just put it out. But it totally depends on you. What are the things you are interested in? What are the things that keeps you motivated? What are the things that you see have a full career in the future as well? So based on your choice, you can just filter out one technology on one project or one domain, and then you can build on that. Right?
Okay, thank you. And also I have a small follow-up, if I'm allowed, Muskan.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So now we are seeing Instagram is on roll right now, and many people, they are, pursuing their hobbies in Instagram. So how do you see in the next 2 to 3 years, or how is Instagram gonna reflect on our CV? Can we put Instagram I'm doing this content or that content, or I have this many followers, or is it gonna make a difference when you are sitting for an interview or something like that? Because many people are they have 10,000, 15,000 followers, and they are really doing well there.
Yeah, I see that. But if you see, because I was applying for US also, I was applying for masters in US, and there also I followed the template which the guys follow for the United States. But never I have ever seen any Instagram bio or Instagram link in their resume. And one more thing, which I see nowadays, the whole lot is shifting, right? I was growing up and I was using Orkut. Have you guys heard about Orkut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I started using Orkut when I was in sixth and seventh. Then the whole generation changed from Orkut to Facebook, then Facebook to Instagram, then WhatsApp somewhere came in between, and now we are on the transition from Instagram to LinkedIn, right? So you guys might not understand the effect of LinkedIn right now. I also didn't know about like for 1 or 2 years ago, but right now the whole transition is happening. You will see the whole more content on LinkedIn. You will see the whole more professional shifting from Instagram to LinkedIn, because I think there is always a transition on after 5 to 10 years. So right now the professional companies or the IT recruiters which are there in the market, they're always targeting your LinkedIn profile. They might not target your Instagram or whatever the followers you're having on Instagram or whatever the content you are creating on Instagram, because Instagram is very hectic. It has become a mess after they have introduced Reels, right? I also don't personally use Instagram. If I want to just put something out, then I only use Instagram. But if you want to showcase your profile with respect to the career development and with respect to the professional journey, then I will suggest that LinkedIn is the best platform. So because the HR recruiters and the companies are only concentrating on your LinkedIn profile or your GitHub link if you are from technical background, or your lead code link or your code chef link, and what are the projects you have built. But I haven't seen anyone in the India or in US have gone for Instagram or have any potential growth for Instagram following in the future also. So yeah.
Ali, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi Yash. Yes,
Hello.
a little bit off the topic that has been being discussed up till now. So my question is actually regarding career choices. Okay. So if you see everywhere right now, there's a trend that's going on. Everybody wants to get into analytics, and it seems everybody right now knows regression. You have you are also from an IT background. You've done consulting, so you have a lot of idea about that part. So even over here at Berkeley Institute, all the profiles that we get, I've been told they are all in analytics only. So if you were to suggest some skills that need to be acquired just for that, somebody can carve themselves out, some kind of niche spot for them. What would you do for that?
So data science has been on boom from last 3-4 years, right? So data science has been and will always be on boom, because with the ever-growing data which we are in and the increasing population, the data science guys will be always in demand. So even I was doing data science at one point of time, but that wasn't my cup of tea. Because I could not handle the backend data and the backend technologies. I work on the front end, I work on the iOS platform, I work for the Android platform. So that's the skills I like, and that's the platform which I enjoy. So I worked on that. But yeah, I think the data science or the analytics things that you mentioned currently is totally based upon you, and if you have the interest on it. I will always focus on the point interest, because if you just try to pursue one skill for a career, then it won't last long, or after a point of time you will eventually get bored of it, and then your job become very tedious. But if you are interested in one skill set, and if you see the potential growth of that skill set in the future also, then you will actually enjoy your job, right? I always tell everyone to just have a skill set that they enjoy, because your professional career will be for 30 to 40 years, right? Till the age of 60, you will be doing that career, you will be doing that skill set, you will be doing that work each day, 8 to 9 hours, right? So you have to keep enjoying your work, otherwise it will become tedious and it will get into your mental space, right? So coming to your data analytics or the data science things you're doing, you can definitely go for it if you have the interest. And there are many workshops which are there online. There are many certifications which are there online. There are many internships which are there online, which are providing the data science kind of initial boost. So you can go for them. There are many technologies, like you can go for Python, you can go for R, you can go for Tableau, you can go for SQL. I have many in place, right? So you can just have a look on them, have a search for it, and then just go for it if you have the interest on it. So yeah, there is no harm in going for data science. They has been on boom, they will be on boom, and there is a huge potential for data science in future also.
Okay, then just a follow-up question. Like you said, few years down the line, you're gonna be bored of you're gonna be very bored out of regression, not just analytics. So everybody, I've been told is this is a good place to start. But then, like you said, boredom is going to come down the line. So how do I move, how do I prepare myself to move away from analytics maybe say 3 years down the line or so?
Correct. Yeah. So I think your work or your professional journey will be for 8 to 9 hours in the daytime, right? And you always have your weekends. You always have your night to just build or to work upon the certain technologies that you are interested in or that you want to move out, right? So you can always make some time out of your work so that you can build on your other skills or your secondary skill. I would say your primary skill would be data science, which you will be contributing to your company, but you can also build for your secondary skill which you will be pursuing in future or which you want to build for yourself. Giving my example, I do stand-up comedy, I do content creation. When I was in Delhi like 2 years back before pandemic, I was doing stand-up comedy every single week because I was trying to become a stand-up comedian. I was seeing a huge potential. I was getting calls to do online shows all across the country, but my corporate job was keeping me very busy. That's why I could not pursue that. But I'm still working on that. I'm still taking some time out every day, every night, just for my content. I code 8 to 9 hours each day, and then I write content at night. So that's how I'm pursuing, and that's how I'm looking into my future. Maybe in the future I will just quit my job and do stand-up comedy all time. But yeah, so that's how one should look into it. You can always give your full-time job and give to one skill set, but in the night, on the weekend, you can always build on your secondary skill. So that will always keep you in place, and it will not let you to boredom.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ria, you have also raised your hands. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Hello, sir. So I have a very basic question as a freshie. So it's like that. I just want your suggestion, or let's say, I want you to guide me. That since I'm a fresher, what should I look for? Should I go for startups to expand my horizon, or should I go for big four names? Like how the dynamics of both these things work out?
Your voice is coming up very hazy. I could not hear your question properly. Can you just repeat it again?
Yeah, sure. I was just asking that if it is a part of your, like, you have to suggest or write somebody asking me, I'm a fresher and I have a choice between working with a startup or working with a big four name. Like how the dynamics work and what will be the best option for me to, expand my horizons and learn better more. In which of the places will it be better for me?
Correct. Yeah. So if you are in your initial stage of your career, or if you are a fresher like you are right now, so you can always go for. I think my personal experience is go for a startup, because startup will take care of your skill set. It will put into some pressure situation, and it will also enhance or allow you to enhance your skill set. Because if you go for MNC or if you go for a product based company in your initial stage, you might not have that particular kind of experience which you have on startup. It's not bad to go for a product based company or a MNC, because I also started my journey with IBM. It was a MNC, but in IBM I was lucky enough to to have that kind of experience and to have those kind of pressure situations, which helped me grow in my skill set and in my experience. So that totally depends on profile to profile. It totally depends on company to company. It totally depends on how or which project you are tagged to. So that there are so many various factors that allow a company or individual to grow. But just to have my experience and just to see the market right now, I would probably suggest that you can always go for a startup, because in startup you will learn so much. It will help you to overcome some situation, some pressure situation which you will be going through in startup. And then if you switch from a startup to a product based company or MNC, it will help you immensely, because in MNC or in a product based company the pressure factor might be not that much. So it will always help you if you have that experience of startup already.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Megha, you have
Ask a
raised.
question. Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Dipayan, you can ask your question.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask that how can you guide your career in towards data investment analysis from data analysis? Like, what is something different that you need to do, or some different skill set that you need to have to get into investment analysis?
To be very frank, I'm not aware of the data analysis or the investment analysis, but there will be always a coherence between the skill sets, right? So if they are related to the data science, and if they are related to the data which you're dealing with, so there will be always a coherence or a common point between the two. So you can always go and pursue a different skill set which you see the potential in, right? If I give you my example, I have started as an Android developer, and then I shifted to iOS developer. So Android and iOS both are the platform, right? Both are the mobile platform. They can always be served to the web application, but there will be always a common point between that, right? There will be a skill set that you might to change or you might to divert a bit in, but you will always have some of the background which you are there in the place, right? So if I give you your example, which you've just mentioned, is your data science, right? So if you want to shift from one skill set of data science to another skill of data science, there will be always a common point between them, right? So if you're seeing that second skill set of the data science is growing or is having a huge potential in the market, then you can always go for it, right? There is no point of waiting or learning more about it. You can always go for it. Build some sample project, go for an internship if there are in the market, and then you can go into that particular journey of that new skill set.
Can you kind of a follow-up question? So can you tell me if there is some different set of certifications that we need to get into these two specific fields?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not sure about these data science because I haven't pursued them. But I think if you ask me about the front end skill, then I can definitely tell. But to tell you about the data science certification, I can always ask with my colleagues and I can get back to you because there must be some certification and an internship which will be in the market for these two fields. So I can just check with my colleagues and get back to you.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. Thank you.
No issue.
Shreya, you can go ahead.
Hi Yash, as you were suggesting some things about LinkedIn, so can you please suggest what can I do if LinkedIn member is outside of my network?
You can send a connection request.
Apart from it, how will I approach effectively, so I can get an response as soon as possible, or what is an efficient way to approach?
Correct. Yeah. So I think that totally depends. If you are a premium member, then you can directly hit that particular connection request and just draft a kind of formal mail, which will be telling about you as a person, what you're doing, and what are the things you have in mind, and what are you looking for from another person. So that's how your template should be, right? You can just mention your name on the top. You can say I'm pursuing this from this college. I am working on this skill set. I have a keen interest in these skill set, and I would love to have a collaboration with you, or I would love to have a word with you, right? So that kind of formal mail you can send to a connection for starting a conversation, and from there you can take it forward. Because if you simply say hi and if you simply say I'm looking for opportunity, then it won't work, right? I also receive so many messages, so many in-mail text on my inbox, but I don't see it because that doesn't tell me about that person. So your first conversation starter has to be something that the person should know, this is the person and this is his or her skill set, and this is the thing which she's offering or he is offering. So then they will think about it, and maybe they will reply, and then they will initiate a conversation with you, right? So your first message should be in a mail format, and it should highlight all the skill set and more about you, right? Rather than just hi. So that's how you can approach the individual.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Divya, you can ask your question.
Hi Yash, can you elaborate a bit more on impact of artificial intelligence and machine learning on the employability of data scientists?
Yeah. So I think artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence, to be precise, will take over our employment one day or the other. I'm not being negative, or I don't have any bad thing about artificial intelligence, but it will definitely affect your employability in the future, right? Not now, not in 10 years, maybe down the line from 20 years to 50 years, it will definitely affect your employability. So that's the thing I have in mind. That's the things I've read all about. Many tech giants have the same view about data science and artificial intelligence. But yeah, if you consider just the present age, like from 2020 to 2050, you have your data science employment in place, right? You don't have to worry about it, because the robotics have to be trained just to take over the human guys, right? So for the next 20 or 30 years, I can see a huge potential in data science. There will be always rapidly changing technologies which you use in data science. I'm not from the data background, that's why I don't know much about it, but I know the guys who are pursuing data science and who are in constant push and constant change in the fields of data science. The data science itself is growing at a very rapid speed, because many people are pursuing data science, many companies are looking for data science guys, and they're optimizing the whole field of data science. So you always have to keep in changing with respect to data science, because in 2010 or in early 2000, when the whole data science evolved, at that time, if you see the technologies which they have listed and the current technologies which they are working with respect to data science is completely different. So you always have to keep on changing with respect to data science. And yes, if you see the employability of the data science for the next 20-30 years, it is good. But after after 30 years, I will see some the effect of AI into the current employment. So yeah.
Megha, you can go ahead.
Hello. How do I boost my CV so that the recruiters can hire me?
I could not hear you, I guess.
Hello, I'm audible?
Is it for me, or you guys can hear?
It's for you. Am I audible?
Megha, you're not audible.
Oh, just a minute.
Megha, you can put your question in the chat box. We'll read it out.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, Yash. Hello, Yash. I was telling that how could we boost our CV, as I'm not that much in line, so I don't have any experience or done any internship. So is there any way that I could boost my CV so that recruiters could hire?
Correct. So I think Muskan also asked a similar question related to the CV. If anyone has not done an internship, or if anyone has not done any project, they can always go for any personal skill, right? So you can be building something which is very personal to you, right? If you are suppose on content creation, you can highlight that. If you are working for some NGOs, or if you are hosting some event, if you are doing something in the side, you can always highlight that, right? It is preferably good if you have an internship or if you have any certification with respect to any skill set. But if you're not from a technical background, or if you don't have those things in mind, you can always go for any side things which you might be doing on the side, right? It could be your NGO work, it could be your event promotion, it could be your content creation, it could be anything, right? So just have a formal kind of bullet points of those which you are building right now or which you're working currently, so that can stand alone for the recruiters. So there is no point of highlighting anything which you are doing on the side. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Tejal, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Yash. So I wanted to ask, if somebody wants to go into consulting, so what kind of skills should that person have? And can you talk about it a little? We have talked about data analysis, but not consulting. So yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I'll try to give my example with respect to consultant. Currently, I'm playing that role of a senior consultant. So consultant is basically a guy who can be varied across various roles, right? Consulting is not only having a meeting with the clients and just gathering the requirements. Consultant can also play a major role with negotiating the finances between the product and the company. They can always play a role between the colleagues of the development team and the colleagues of the design team. So consultant can be seen as a middle guy or middle layer between one team and the other team, right? So that's how I look at it. So if I tell just about my experience, here I play a consultant role with respect to the BA who do the business analysis, right? So if a project comes in Mercedes, I have to go through that project. I have to learn about the project. I have to learn about the requirements which is there and what the end user will be using, right? So if I give you an example, suppose in Mercedes we release a car, right? And in the car I want to add speakers, right? And the speakers will be having some functionalities, right? It could be touch, it could be the frequency which it will be playing, it could be the kind of data or the kind of the size of the data which that speaker might be having, and all those stuff, right? So the PA will be gathering all the requirement of the end product and whatever the product which the end user will be consuming, and then they will go to the development team and tell, I want this speaker. The speaker should be having of this volume. The speaker should be having the touch. It should be having those many features, right? So that's the role of the BA. That's the role of the consultant, which he does according to my profile. But there are many roles of a consultant. It will not only be restricted to requirement gathering, right? It can be seen as a bridge between one team and another team, right? So if you're good with managing team, and if you're good with gathering requirements and maintaining coherence between teams, then you can definitely go for consultant. That's the whole outlook of a consultant profile.
Udal, you can go ahead.
So, hi Yash, my question would be like, it's a fact that no one would be getting his first job, or he would be getting placed in his first attempt, right? So he'll be giving 10 attempts, or he'll be going for 20 attempts as well. So how do you approach that? What do we learn from those rejections and then go for the next attempt? So how you deal with that, with those rejections?
Correct. There's nothing like rejection. There will be always learning. So that's how you should look at it, right? I've also given so many interviews when I was looking for a switch from IBM to a product-based company. I was rejected so many times. If I just keep a count, it would be close to 50 rejection I've faced. But I don't see that as a rejection. I can see that as a learning, because each interview which I did back to back, each day, every day, it has taught me something or the other, right? I was doing my work in the day and I was preparing for interviews in the morning. I was giving the interview on the weekends, and through each week, through each day, I was actually growing. So if you see your interview preparation in such a way that you will be always getting something from that interview or getting something from that rejection, then that will actually evolve you just to have your next interview or to have your next campus placement, right? So don't be bogged down by the way the interview panned out. It can be going in your way, it cannot be going in your way, but it will definitely teach you something or the other thing, right? So you have to think that learning as outcome of that particular interview, right? If you see that thing learning or the outcome from that interview, then it will actually help you in the future interviews, right? So that's how the way I looked at it, and I think I always encourage everyone to look at it as a learning, not a failure.
Thank you.
Smriti, you can go ahead.
Hi Yash.
Hello.
So I just wanted to ask a very small question. Recently I came across various firms and companies which are offering the two different profiles, research associate and research consultant. Even though the requirement and eligibility criteria is quite similar, but what is the difference between the two profiles?
Sorry, can you name the profiles again?
Research consultant and research associate.
Okay, the associate can be seen as someone who will be accompanying your research consultant, because I am also a consultant. I also have a associate with me, right? So the associate can be seen as a beginning profile who will be working on a site with someone or the other person and who will be learning from that project. But a research consultant will be the same thing which I mentioned earlier, right? He'll be doing the research of the product. He will be doing the research of the end customer and the kind of the product base which company has, and then based on those research and based on those findings, it will just help the development team to make that product. So yeah, that's the common between the two. And once you're done with your research associate and you are having that particular set of experience, then you can switch from research associate to research consultant.
Okay, thank you. Just one more question. Like, according to you, what are the necessary skills that we should possess in order to become a research consultant?
Correct. Yeah. So I won't point out any skill set, or I won't point out any technology, but it has to be something in your mind, right? Because if you have that geek of knowing the product inside out, that will actually help you to become a very good consultant. If you see something, like if you see the Amazon website, if you see any product on Amazon, and if you want to know more about the product, from where it has been shipped, how they are delivering, what is the actual cost involved in it, what is the time which is taking place to build that product. So that kind of mindset you have to have when you become a consultant. You have to go in the deep knowledge of a product or of a website or of a customer, and then you have to know everything about that product, right? So if you have that kind of mindset, it will eventually help you to become a consultant, because that's the role of consultant, to go in the deep of any product or any customer base and require and gather as much requirement as possible, right? That will not only help the customer, but it will also help the company to become to kind of make up a coherent relation between the two. So that's the mindset that one have to become a consultant.
Thank you, Yash. That's it.
Yeah.
Malvika, you can go ahead.
Hi, Yash. So my question was about personal branding. I understand you deliver talks about personal branding. So could you tell us how, as students, we would be able to build a proper brand for ourselves that would, in a way, influence companies when they're hiring us, either as interns or in the upcoming placement session?
Correct. Yeah. So personal branding is very kind of individual topic. It cannot be generic across the individuals, right? If I talk about my personal branding, it is totally based upon helping students and helping colleagues with their journey of campus placement, or to enhance their professional journey, or help them to switch from one company to another. So that is the kind of niche which I have. Apart from my niche, I have my technical background. I have my technical skills in place, which I've mentioned on my profile. So if a recruiter want to hire me for just my skill set, that is there. If any promotion event is there and they want me to promote that event, that is there. If there is any event like yours is happening right now, they want to introduce me, or they want to invite me, that is there. So your profile should be talking all about you. If I'm doing public speaking, I will stand it out. I will put some content about my public speaking. If I'm doing any project on the side, I will put my content about the project on the link. If I'm doing any events, or if I'm doing any guest lecture anywhere, I will just put it out. So your profile should be telling all about you. Okay, so that any recruiter, any event, any guy can reach out to you and help for and just get your help. And if you talk about you, your profile is basically has to be built in such a way that you are keen in getting those internship. You are keen to get those opportunities. And how you will get them? You will just put out your skill set and the experience and the project that you've worked all along your career right now. Okay, so you just put it out, whatever you've built, in a precise way in the description section in your LinkedIn heading, so that it will stand out for the recruiters or the HRs. Yeah, so this guy and this girl is doing this, and we can definitely have a word with her, and then they will have an initial conversation with you. So firstly, know about you, what you are interested in, what you have done till now, and just put it out in a precise way or in a concise way. So that will help you to build a profile, and that will also help the recruiters to identify you and reach out to you.
Okay, I just had one more question. when we're sitting for an interview, how would we lead the interview towards our interests? So that the employers, the follow-up questions are usually about our interests. So how would we guide the interview towards our interest, basically? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that also totally depends on individual to individual, right? So if I like dance, right, or if I like stand-up comedy, so I don't tell a recruiter, right away, like, I'm like a professional dancer or I do stand-up comedy. Firstly, I will just know about the role which I'm going for, right? If I'm going for a development role and the recruiter is just keen about my technical skills, then I won't highlight them. Okay. But if the interview has been passed and if the conversation went very well, and if we are on a friendly note, and if the recruiter asks for my personal interest, then I can highlight those skills. Like, I do stand-up comedy, I do content creation, I do dance, I do sing, whatever I do. But there has to be from individual level, right? You don't have to have some points in mind that I have to speak that. So it totally depends on your personality and what you've done in the past, and through that you can drive an interview in such a way, right? So if I give an example, if I say, I do content creation, so then the recruiter will ask, what kind of content do you create, or what is your personal branding is all about. Then I will tell, I've created that LinkedIn profile, I have like around 23,000 followers, I help students to get placement, I conduct talks, I conduct webinars. So then the conversation will be leading into that particular domain, right? So that totally happens with individual to individual. That happens from HR to HR. There is no concise or a defined way that it will go in that way. But if the conversation is going in that way, and if you're comfortable highlighting those skills or your interest, then you can definitely highlight them, and then you can drive your conversation in such a way that the recruiter will be always always keen to know more about it, right? So that's how you should highlight, and in a professional way. So the recruiter will also think, this guy is not only technical sound, but he or she is also having some, skill set or some secondary skills on the side which she's working. So yeah, that's how you can highlight it.
Thank you so much.
Sparsh, you can go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Yash. My question is, what would be the best answer for the interview when the interviewer asks you about the strengths and weakness of yours? And weaknesses that could be sound professional in the interview.
Correct. Yes. So I think I got a part of a question which you asked about strength and weakness, right?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, so you asked about strength and weakness, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think, that strength and weakness question is very, very generic. It will be always asked in your interview, and there are a sample of strength and weakness there on Google. If you search what to answer in strength and weakness, then you will have a whole lot of list which you can just go through and prepare your answers. But I think you can also go for your individual answer and what your actual strengths and actual weaknesses are. There will be a dummy data or dummy strength and weakness that will be there, but if there are genuine any strength and weakness which are there in you, then you can highlight those, right? So if you ask about me, I will say, my strengths are I'm very kind of keen learner, I'm very punctual. So that is the skills that you will see, if you hire me. So because if I'm giving an interview for Amazon, and if I say, I'm very punctual, and if on the first day I join late on Amazon, then that strength is kind of discarded, right? So your strength should be always coherent with your personality, and then you can answer that. So if your skill set or if your strength is be punctual or a team man or a hard worker, then you can definitely highlight those. There's no written rule yet that you have to highlight those particular strength or those particular weakness only. That totally depends on your personality and what your actual strength and weakness are. So whatever they are, just highlight it. It will not only showcase you as an honest person, but if you join that company, then those will be always coherent with your actual answers that you have given your interview, right? So that will always lead a good impression upon your employer or upon your HR. So that's how I see it.
So just you just took an example for the interview of Amazon. So can you tell what would be the weakness that you could highlight in that interview? Your weakness in that.
Yeah, so I think my genuine weakness is if I indulge in something, I definitely lose, a kind of a time frame, right? If I'm working in something and if I indulge in something, then sometimes I miss my meals, I miss some certain calls, I miss some gatherings, right? So that can also be seen as a weakness because my work is there, but I'm too indulged in work that I'm kind of neglecting other things, right? So that's that weakness which I genuinely have, but your weakness could be yours, right? Your weakness could be that you have to sleep, or you kind of a lazy guy, so you can highlight that also. But at times you could be lazy, but most of the time you should be punctual. So that's how you should build your weakness also. Your weakness should be totally personal and totally genuine. Whatever the weakness you have, you just put it out. I think the recruiter will definitely connect with it and they will understand.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Priyanka, you can ask your question.
Hi, Yash. I wanted to know what do you think which is more effective, like for getting campus placement or off-campus placement?
For which?
For getting placed.
I think, yeah, if you have your campus placement already, there is nothing better than that. There's nothing good if you have your campus placement in place. But campus placement comes in such a way that they will not hire all the students, right? If you go for any major companies which come for campus placement, they will only hire 3 to 4 guy out of 20 or out of 30. So there will be many students which will be left behind, right? So then you can always go for off campus placement, and those off campus placement is also very competitive nowadays, right? So if you have your skill set, if you have your experience, if you have your project internship certification, then only the off campus placement guys will actually will be interested in you. So the competition is very much nowadays with respect to the engineering and with respect to the domain which everyone is working right now. But if you are having a skill set which is demand in the market, then there is no problem. Either go for online placement or on campus placement, or go for offline campus placement. So that works both ways. If you're individual which is having a particular skill set and which is having something to do or give to the company, then anyone will hire you. There is no point of going for a certain placement committee or certain placement criteria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mirendra, you can go ahead.
Just a question, Muskan or Malvika. What is the scheduled time for this? I think it's 12 to 1:30, right? I think because 1:30 I have to go somewhere.
Okay, yeah. We'll wrap it up with the next three.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Mirendra, you can ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Yash. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Actually, my question is, like, what would you suggest to someone who had a startup, and now he wants to go for the job, like after completing his masters, and would that be a negative point for, like, let's say, basically me, or should I completely eliminate that? Like I just mention it as a you have work as a as an employee rather than having your own startup. So what would you suggest?
I think having a startup or having that experience of building something is stand out alone, right? So if I have a startup and if for some situation it didn't work, then it doesn't have any negative impact, right? You shouldn't think that it have or it will be having any negative impact on your employer or on your HR. They will definitely consider that, and they will definitely be keen to know more about your startup and whatever the failings or whatever the challenges you have faced while building that startup, right? So I can definitely see as a very positive point and a very positive impact on my mind, because when I see like you have worked on a startup and you have actually thought of building something from the scratch, that standalone with many employees or with many candidates, right? So I think it can be seen as a plus point, because if I have been a part of a startup, or if I have been worked on a startup, then I would be having so many experiences which many candidates would not, right? So your experience and your learnings and your feelings will be actually a plus point to any organization which you will be joining. Okay, so you can definitely highlight that in a positive way. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ali, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi. It's a bit late and a bit off topic again, but it's a follow-up on Malvika's question. So, you were discussing LinkedIn and personal branding and all, right? So, one thing that I have experienced, and I'm sure you will be able to help me with it, is that, initially I had spent my time just adding people randomly. So, right now I've got like 4,000 people. But when it comes to actually networking, actually building some kind of relation with them, I've got maybe 10, maybe 20 max. The issue that I'm facing is I don't know how to go past that basic introduction. Hi, I'm Ali. The other person will I'll just I'll just talk about myself. They'll talk about themselves, maybe like 1 or 2 paragraphs. After that, there's nothing to talk about. So how do I keep it going? And the second thing is, at times, when you try and approach certain directors of certain companies, people high up the hierarchy, basically, they tend to reply, but it's just that I find it very difficult to find something to talk to them about. So what do you do? So what would you suggest for that part?
So that also depends on what is your purpose to approach them. If your purpose is to get a job, then you can definitely highlight the journey or the skill set that you're having, and you are definitely looking forward to join that company. Okay, that totally depends on purpose. If I'm if I'm mailing or if I'm texting some random guy just to have a conversation, then that doesn't work. Your conversation has to be some purpose. If I'm texting a head of department of some organization, then my conversation should be formal, and my conversation should be lead in such a way that he or she will be interested in my profile and what are the work which I am doing and what I can bring to the table. Okay, so your conversation will be leading into that way. And if I'm just trying to network some guy, or if I just want to have a one-to-one conversation with guy to just know about more LinkedIn or about any content which other guy is creating, then it could be a very kind of a formal informal conversation, so that the other guy can be also interested in you and you can also know the other guy, right? So that totally depends on a purpose and for what purpose you're having that conversation. If it is formal, then keep it formal and make it towards your job, or make it towards your interview, or make it towards your profile. If it is kind of informal, then you can just have an informal discussion between what you're doing and how you're doing, how can I be more like you, what steps I can take to become that particular kind of a person. So that's the totally kind of conversation you'll have that person. So yeah, that totally depends on with whom you're having a conversation and what is the purpose of it. Okay.
But then don't you think what I would think is, somebody whom I don't even know at all suddenly comes and asks me for a favor or some help. Why would that person even be inclined to help me? Would it not be more effective to have some kind of connect with them before I actually make the ask for something?
Correct. Yeah. So I think for your conversation starters, as I mentioned in one of the answers, you have a complete kind of a mail which you can make as a template. And if you want to know more about, or if you want to highlight more about you can just send that mail to that individual, right? So that individual can just go through that formal template mail. They will know like what you're doing, what you are trying to do, what you have skill set. Then they have kind of confidence, like this guy is genuine and this guy definitely needs some kind of help. Then they will just hit it back with a reply, and then you can just move the conversation forward. So just don't start a conversation with hi or hello, or I'm just looking for referrals, I'm looking for opportunity. It won't work that way. Your first message or your first mail should be in such a way that it will highlight your skill set, it will highlight your personality, and you will genuinely looking for make a connection and then make that connection forward to your job. Okay. So your first mail should be very formal and very descriptive about you. And if the recruiter and the HR is having that vacancy, or if they are having some kind of role, or they are interested in your profile, then they will definitely reply back. The chances nowadays, due to very hectic schedule or very hectic market, many of the HR won't reply because they'll be getting so many application in their messages or in their inbox. But if your profile is correct, if your skill set is correct, and if the HR is definitely hiring for that particular skill set and role, then they will definitely reply you, and then you guys can take that conversation forward.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ritusha, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Muskan. Hi, Yash. My question is relating to the endorsements on LinkedIn profiles. I've seen many people who have recommendations from their already employers, and I want to know what value do endorsements hold in the profiles, and how does one go about asking for recommendations or endorsements? How do they approach about it?
I think recommendation can be valued with respect to your job or with respect to the recruiter which is looking into your profile, but there is no necessity to having some kind of recommendation, right? If you see my profile right now, it has zero recommendation. People try to give me recommendation, but I decline because I don't know those guys, because I haven't worked with those guys. Those guys actually don't know me. So more of the time the recommendation you see in someone profile can be through their friends or through their colleagues, right? It could not be genuine. So if I tell you about my experience, I still have zero recommendation, and HR also don't value recommendation that much. It can be valued on your profile. It can just weigh your profile in such a way, like, this guy has some recommendation, but it doesn't stand out your profile for recruiters, right? And to answer your question, if you want to ask for a recommendation, you can always ask from the people you've actually worked with and you actually have some positive impact or positive feedback about you, right? So then you can maybe your team lead or maybe your project manager or maybe your delivery manager, who are the guys who have worked with you in the past, you can definitely just ping him and ask them for a recommendation. But from a recruiting point of view or from a personal branding point of view, those recommendation doesn't add value, right? It doesn't happen with me. I haven't looked for any recommendation, and none of the interview which I've given, those have highlighted about my recommendation. So yeah.
So just last few questions here. Daulat, you can go ahead. Can you hear me, Daulat?
Yes, Muskan. Thank you. Hi, Yash. My question is related to academics. Like, how much our strong academics help us to get placed? Like, means, will panelists or recruiters ask us questions regarding our academics or marks? Means
60%.
60%. Okay.
Yeah, 60%. Why I said, because after a point of time your academics doesn't matter. I don't even pronounce academics because recruiters don't ask about academics. They don't know, or they don't want to know what you have done, 10th or 12th. They just want to know about your experience, whatever the skill set you're having, and how you will be contributing to that particular job. Okay, that's the end of it, and that's the all things that they want to know. Okay, so if you don't have a good academics like 90%, 80%, 100%, then you shouldn't be worried about it, because I wasn't also that good in academics. My percentage is also around 70, 80 mid. I was from the ICSE background, and you guys know, to make good percentage in ICSE is very difficult task. Okay, so my percentage in 10th or 12th is also very median, kind of on a lower range, but it doesn't matter when you go for a job or when you go for companies, right? They won't be that interested for your percentage in 10th or 12th, but your experiences and what you've built, what your skill set is, and how you will be contributing to the company. That's all they will be looking for. But yeah, the minimum criteria for companies will be 60%, 70%. That you just have to fulfill. Apart from that, according to me, your academics doesn't matter.
okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
So we are taking the last question of this session. Saurav, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Muskan. I have one question. Like, I have worked earlier with an event company, but that was a startup company. But उन्होंने मुझे मतलब डिस्प्यूट हो गया, तो उन्होंने मुझे कुछ लेटर वेटर नहीं दिया. So how can I show this experience for 2.5 years?
Yeah, I think first of all you should definitely ask for your experience letter they should give you. It is a formal and legal document that you should be having up of your experience. If they're not willing to give, then you can raise kind of a complaint for that organization, so that they will be pressured and they should eventually give you. But if it doesn't pan out and they don't give you the certification, then still you can highlight your experience there in your resume or in your CV, because you've actually worked on your event profile, right? So though you don't have the experience, you can actually highlight that dispute which you have in the interview. But that experience that you will be having for 2 to 3 years, you will be having those experience, you will be having those learning. So in the interview, if the HR asks you about those, you will be confident to answer them, right? Because you actually have those. So there is no point of not highlighting those skill set. Whatever you have worked upon on event, on product, company, application, whatever you have worked, just highlight it out. And if you're confident and if you've actually worked on that particular skill set and particular company, then the HR will eventually know, this guy is making sense, and he know that particular domain of event management. Okay. And I would suggest to ask or raise a legal request for that company, so that they have to give your experience certificate, because that's your right. No one should be taking your right with you and should be having that document with you. Okay?
Yes, I have raised, but they are not responding anything. That's why.
Okay. You can pursue it still, and definitely just scale your skill set, whatever you've learned for that company. The HR will definitely be interested in that, and if you answer that confidently, then they will eventually know that you've actually worked there and you have that experience. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, just one last question we have. We are then wrap it up after that. Sparsh, you can ask.
Yes, thank you, Muskan. My last question would be, which one will look better in our CV? 4 to 5 छोटी internships, or 1 or 2 a good internship?
4 to 5 small internship, right? Because according to me, the more internship you do, the more experience you gain, right? And to stand out your profile, you have to have more experience from the other candidates, right? If you have worked on 1 or 2 internship, that is good. That is fine. Those are from the big firm. That is also advantage. But your experience would be with 2 internship or with those 2 projects, right? In comparison to if you do 4 to 5 smaller projects, though they are smaller in scale, but the experiences and the learning from those 4 to 5 projects will be greater than those of 2, right? So I think you can, if you have done n number of internship, highlight those internship, and the HR will definitely make a point of it, this guy has done so many internship, he must be faced so many challenges, he has overcome those challenges, and he has those particular set of experience, which will be added advantage to our company, right? So that would be a plus point.
Like 4 to 5 of just startup companies, or 1 or 2 like of Niti Aayog or a big tech firms, like that?
Doesn't matter. So 4 to 5 internship is there, right? So internship totally surround around your experience, right? There will be a problem statement, and there will be some development or some things that you do, and there will be some end result, right? So unless you are solving many problems or being part of many problems, it's good for your profile, and it will be good for HR also to know more about you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's it to the questions, since you have to be somewhere at 1:30. Okay, so so on behalf of Gokhale Institute, we would like to thank you so much for being here today and clearing all our students' queries and doubts. Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you to the audience for being so active and amazing. Thank you all.
Yeah. And just to end this seminar, can I have a two words?
Yes, definitely.
Sure. Yeah. So just to wrap this up, I will firstly thank you, Muskan, and the committee who has invited me. I had a wonderful time here. The questions were very good. The similar question which I received all along in my LinkedIn from the students. So the questions were always there, and I know the things or the pain points which you guys are going through. But I think you guys might have some fair amount of idea, like what you guys need to do, how you can build your LinkedIn profile, how you can build your CV, what are the things which are in boom right now in the market, and what are things you have to keep in mind while giving an interview, right? So that was the motto which I have in mind, to just just make aware you guys what is the thing in the market and how you can improve on it. And if in case you also have some doubts in future, I think you guys can always just hit me on LinkedIn. The same name with Yashavitra. There is only one member of Yashavitra in the whole LinkedIn. I don't know. My name is pretty unique. So just send me a connection request. Just follow me or just hit me up on the DM. And I always, reply every student or every colleague who want to ask or who has some doubts with respect to the placements, right? So don't be shy to hit any message to me. I will definitely reply. And there will be a bond between me and your college. We'll be always coordinating and having seminars in the future, and I'll be always happy to help you guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye then.
Bye, Yash. Happy Diwali.